file here is seeding the database with terms. So this is getting a list of terms from the seed data out here, and it's also seeding that data into the database. So this is similar to our seed, our data file written on the front end now, but now it's in the back end in the seed file, so it's actually going to add that to the database when you see it. Some other stuff that's notable as well. So models, here's the response model. So if I go to where this is being used on the term controller, you can see that we're using the successful response here for all of our returns. If I go into that, it's a generic function that lets you return a success or failure with the data type of T. So T is being whatever data type you want to pass into it. So in this case, I could do successful response and I could just do term, and that would be, or I guess it would be a term array because it's array terms, but that's the same, that's the whole idea of that. You can pass of data there, and it's going to conform the type here to match that type, right? So T being the type of data, and then status is the result, so success, and it has a message as well associated with it. So you can see the message here is terms retrieved successfully. And the same thing as well for the error. So if I go back to the response model, there's an error response. It's the exact same as the success one, but it has a error status on it for the handle, or for the status property. So it's pretty straightforward. Response being this one. It's just going to return that response with the message saying unexpected error occurred. And then we have some validation as well. So we're using JOI, which is a package to use for validation. So these are just functions that will actually perform the validation. So if I go to my term website, you can see we're calling a validate request with the term schema. And that term schema is coming from validation/term validation. So I go to that validation is term validation. All we're doing is we're passing in some validation stuff here, so we're making sure the title must be required and it cannot be empty. Same thing for definition, it must be there and it cannot be empty. And then for favorite, it can be options, you don't need to include it. So then what we're doing when we actually validate that, we're going to be making sure all this actually adheres to the correct validation. And then when that is true, it's going to successfully go into the create term function and create the term, right? So that's what the validation stuff is doing. For function first. And then depending on the response to this, it's either going to return an error message here, which will prevent the request from going fully through, or it's going to do next, which will just keep going the request and it'll keep going along this way. And then types here, just to kind of show off this, is some helper types here so we can use a bit easier. So a bit more functions I mentioned and some other types. So that's kind of the main gist of the backend. Obviously, it's somewhat involved and it's quite complex, but overall, it's not too structured in what parameters they take in. Now, this full stack demo app doesn't really have Swagger docs. It has Swagger implemented here, but in order to actually use Swagger documentation, you have to apply a bunch of documentation for each of your components. And this one doesn't have that. But that being said, I'll kind of show off what it looks like on my end, because I have it on my app as well. So here's what Swagger would look like if you have it fully completed with all the documentation. So you can see here, I go to the API docs and it shows me all of the different inputs in my app. So I've got recipes, just get all. So I guess to kind of switch it up in one of my recipes tracking app now, I'll show off that one. So this is similar to the other app I just showed off, but it's just the DB for my recipe tracking app. So it's going to be a slightly different structure, but for the most part, pretty similar. So if I go to app, I guess the service to kind of go from the top, same cycle as the other one. It's taking the port, it's also not port for requests, and then my app, yes, some things would be a bit different here. So the reason I have to call route controllers, and I'll show you why I use that instead. But it makes it a bit easier to write some code, and if you want to use this package, you want to use this package as well. I encourage everyone to kind of look for things outside of what we're doing in our class and look for things we can do better for you. So in this case, numbers, replacing moments as well, the builder, and here actually here. So it looks like we'll have so that's happening. So the way I'm doing that is the content of here. And I'm saying use this pretty so it's saying those options is that one so if I go and drop this, it's back So now I'll go to that request. You'll see I can have a list of all my definitions inside of JSON file. And the reason for this is in Swagger, or I guess in Postman, you actually can import this directly into Postman, this huge file, and I'll just pull all these routes in, so I can just use them as well. So if I delete this entire rescue track DB, and I don't fit that. We can go to all this stuff with this position. Copy everything here, and I can say import, and I can just paste them to the relevant, and then it's good to go. And now I pretty much have all my endpoints in Postman as normal, and I'm able to use them as a right? So that's the main difference between Swagger, so you can import your endpoints into Postman, you're able to use them easier. So if I want to call get all, for example, I can call get all. I think you can set up your also. By the way,